You need to wake up and see what's going on.
A group of Georgetown College students faced charges tonight after police say they got a 16-year-old drunk. It happened over the weekend. Police tell us the teenager was found unconscious and covered in vomit.
Yolanda, to us, gummy bears look harmless, but Granville police say a Denison University sophomore was selling them to his friends, and the drug-laced candy sent one girl to the hospital.
A former BYU Idaho student is headed to jail after he changed the grades on his college transcript. According to the Idaho Falls Post-Register, Jacob Mahonry was an employee at the school, and he actually used his system access to change his grades from failing to straight A's. The student also used the fake grades to qualify for more than $7,000 in academic scholarships. Mahonry has been sentenced to 180 days in jail and 5 years supervised probation.
The fact that he had weed in his backpack when he went to go talk to the police is kind of weird. If you knew you were going to go talk to them, why would you keep it in your backpack?
Student claiming to have been beaten up by several MSU hockey players is now staring at assault charges himself. There's more. 20-year-old Brandon Carmack is also charged with stalking, domestic assault and battery, and making a false report of a felony. Lindsey Veramis is following the story and explains the role reversal.
A UTC student gets busted by police for reportedly selling prescription drugs on campus.
Now he faces several charges and possible suspension from the university.
Tom Griffith, Hanover police arrested Parker Gilbert today, charging him with 4 counts of sexual assault, and police say he may be responsible for other attacks.
University of Hartford student under arrest tonight on drug charges.
Police say he was operating a drug factory out of his dorm room. Before our breaking news, Bob Wilson spoke to students who can't believe this happened on campus.
Well, David, police say that suspect's blood alcohol content was at nearly 3 times the legal limit. And we learned today that the victim was his close friend.
You clearly made choices that night.
The scared little girl from Port St. Lucie couldn't keep from prosecutors her South Beach social media evidence, where she'd bragged about drinking and living the dream away from the parents whose pain today was all too public.
UT Tyler student conduct, character, integrity, and compassion.
UT Tyler's alcohol policy is pretty straightforward. Students at UT Tyler are not permitted to possess or consume alcohol on campus. The one exception to this is residents at the Eagles Landing Apartments may possess or consume alcohol in their apartment if they are 21 or over. The other restrictions to this are that everyone assigned to the apartment must also be 21 or over, and the alcohol cannot be out or be consumed while guests who are under 21 are present. UT Tyler's illegal drug policy is also pretty straightforward. The use or possession of illegal drugs or narcotics is prohibited. This also includes misuse of prescription medication, such as giving someone else your prescription medication or possessing prescription medication that you do not have a prescription for. The possession of drug paraphernalia, such as bongs, is also prohibited. Harassment is any activity that is sufficiently severe, pervasive, or repetitive that it impacts someone's ability to take part in the services offered by the university. It can be done in person, it can be done electronically, it can be done by any number of means. Most of the harassment we encounter is either face-to-face or happens electronically by email or text message or social media. Please note that if harassment is determined to have any type of a sexual component to it, it may also be treated as a Title IX violation and will be referred to that office for investigation as well. Most of the on-campus housing facilities have quiet hours from 10 p.m. until 8 a.m. each morning. However, courtesy hours are in effect at all times. So if at any time noise can be heard outside your apartment, you may be asked to turn it down. If the noise can be heard outside your apartment, especially if it can be heard 1 or more apartments away, it is most likely too loud. As of August 1st, UT Tyler will be changing its smoking policy. As of August 1st, UT Tyler will go completely tobacco-free. Tobacco or tobacco products will not be permitted on UT Tyler's campus or property, and that includes the on-campus residences. Use of these products is also prohibited on UT Tyler's property. This also includes the possession of any smoking paraphernalia, such as electronic cigarettes, vaporizers, or hookahs. Students who do not comply with the directions given by administrative officials acting in the course of their duties are subject to disciplinary actions. In addition, failing to comply with the administrative rules of campus offices may also result in conduct charges through UT Tyler's Code of Conduct. I'm going to go over how the conduct process itself works. Please note that while the meetings are generally held face-to-face, almost all of the other contact, including the summons, will be handled electronically through your Patriots email account. There are two primary processes that a student can go through in our conduct system: an administrative meeting or a full judicial hearing. The administrative meeting will be for any case that does not involve suspension or expulsion or academic sanctions. It's a fairly informal meeting, usually with one of the coordinators in the residence life facilities or with the Director of Judicial Affairs or the Judicial Coordinator. The student can bring witnesses, they can bring supporting documentation to this meeting. If there is not enough time or if there's additional information that needs to be considered, a follow-up meeting can be held at another time. Although in general, the meetings take anywhere from about 20 to 30 minutes. The student can appeal the outcome, and I'll explain how the appeals process works in a moment. The conduct hearing is a much more involved process, and again, it is only offered for cases that involve either suspension, expulsion, or academic sanctions. It is a very formal process, and a third party decides the case. So for example, there are very specific deadlines for when the student and the judicial office have to exchange witness lists and list and summary of the evidence that they will be submitting. The hearing officers are generally picked from a group of volunteers of faculty and staff members. This person does not report to the conduct office, but is from an outside department. Again, there is a full meeting that is scheduled, and there's a very specific order that the hearing will proceed in. This order determines who gives statements when, who gets to ask questions when, the order that the questioning will go, and so on. Again, the student can bring witnesses, documentation, and so forth to the hearing, and in fact is strongly encouraged to do so. Even in cases that do involve suspension, expulsion, or academic sanctions, a student may request to do an administrative meeting if they're willing to sign a waiver for the full hearing, and that happens probably 80 to 90% of the time. Students can appeal the outcome, whether from an administrative meeting or from a full hearing, to Dr. Mabry's office. It is a written process, so the student has to submit generally a 2 to 4 page written appeal, which is basically a persuasive paper that explains why the decision or the sanction should be changed. The student submits that to the Judicial Affairs office. The director or the coordinator will review the appeal, and then they will generally write a 1 to 2 page response that explains the decision and the sanction. They will then send the appeal and the response to the President's office, and the President Mabry will then review the case and decide if he will grant the appeal, if he will leave the case alone, if he will modify the sanctions, or if he will return the case back to the hearing board for more consideration. Students who are found in violation of policies may be assigned one or more conduct sanctions. These can range from a warning, which is pretty much what it sounds like, official notice from the university not to violate that policy again, all the way through expulsion, which is permanent removal from the university. Other sanctions include probation. Probation means that for a defined period of time the student is on notice that further policy violations may result in suspension. Most students who are placed on probation will also have to complete some additional sanctions, such as educational sanctions, educational programs, or possibly ongoing meetings with one or more staff members. Educational sanctions are fairly common. Probably the most commonly assigned educational sanctions are alcohol or drug education programs done through the Student Services Office, or reflective papers that are turned into the Judicial Affairs Office. Community service can also be assigned. Community service is an unpaid work assignment through a campus office. Most commonly, this is done through the Patriot Center, through Residence Life Maintenance, or University Police. Another sanction that is often assigned is suspension of rights and privileges. This can range from prohibiting a student from being present at certain locations on campus, all the way through to removal from university housing. It can also be used to prevent students from taking part in certain activities or being members of certain organizations. Suspension and expulsion are removal from the university. Suspension is separation from the university for a defined period of time. Students who are suspended will be allowed to return, either after a defined period of time or after certain conditions have been met. For example, a student who has harassed another student could be suspended for as long as the victim is enrolled. In most cases, if a student is allowed back, he or she will have to complete additional educational sanctions when they re-enroll. Expulsion is permanent separation from UT Tyler. With both suspension and expulsion, the removal from the university is noted on a student's transcript for the duration of their separation. It will not explain what was done or what happened, but the notation will note that the student is not eligible to return to UT Tyler for conduct reasons.
UT Tyler student conduct, character, integrity, and compassion.